Good morning and welcome to Detroit PBS's live coverage of the 2025 Mackinac Policy Conference. I am Zoe Clark, Political Director at Michigan Public and One Detroit contributor. And I am thrilled to be back again this year, joining the One Detroit team live from Mackinac Island. This year marks our 15th year partnering with the Detroit Regional Chamber. And once again, we are bringing you front row access to the big ideas, bold voices, and vital conversations that are shaping our state's future. The 2025 conference theme is Michigan's Equation for Impact, focusing on how vision and tools meet action to drive the state's progress. Key discussions are going to center on attracting and developing talent, investing in infrastructure and technology, and building the partnerships that will help overcome barriers to growth. Tune in today and tomorrow as we bring you live interviews, panel discussions, and analysis from the Grand Hotel. It's all part of our commitment to keeping you informed about the policies and partnerships shaping Michigan's future. So let's get started this morning. Each year, we like to kick off with a journalist roundtable, and I am so pleased to welcome back Rick Pluta, Senior Capital Correspondent for the Michigan Public Radio Network, and Dave Eggert, Senior Reporter for Crain's Detroit Business. Hello, you two.
Hello.
I'm not even going to ask you how many conferences this has been for you both. I'm not going to make you do that math this early. But Dave, I am going to start with you. You know, it feels like we are at this conference in a moment where there's some real economic headwinds, right? We've got some fears of recessions. There are conversations about what tariffs, of course, are going to mean to Michigan. Tell me what it's like right now at this conference where there's sort of the things happening on the main stage, but then the conversations among business leaders about what the future of Michigan really is going to look like.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty, I think, in the business world right now. As you mentioned, I think recession fears are up among the general public since January.
Yeah.
The last Detroit Regional Chamber poll came out. Is up since then. Tariffs, there's uncertainty, there's back and forth. People don't really know what's going to happen. It seems like the public is pretty divided, and I think divided evenly generally on tariffs.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just led to, I think we're in a moment both politically too, uncertainty. What's next? Who's going to be the next Detroit mayor?
Right.
We've already seen maneuvering over who's going to be the next governor, who's going to be the next U.S. senator. And that's all kind of coming to head at this conference right now.
Well, we are going to, of course, get into the politics. But Rick, I also want to explore what it means not just to sort of have the conference and these conversations about the economy, but what it means to have so many different folks here at the conference right now, because we have leaders from Washington, D.C., where they're dealing with the Trump administration and a full Republican control of D.C. But then you have state government, where you have Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Democrats in charge. Does it almost feel like sort of these two conversations happening, or are they sort of trying to figure out how to work together?
Oh, I think the conversations are melding into one, that you've got the political class, you've got the business class, you've got the not-for-profit class. The concerns about tariffs are very, very real, and those could have a huge impact on Michigan's economy. That, you know, we've got the polling that talks about the concerns about a recession, and fears of recession have a way of becoming recession as those concerns become realized. And this is an opportunity for the business leaders to exercise, you know, let's call it soft power over the political folks that are here to say, you know, we want to see some action about averting at least the worst of these tariffs. We want to see some action about dealing with deficits, and we want a budget that's on time, because that wasn't always a thing, but it has been in Michigan for quite a while, and business people like predictability and what comes along with budgets that are predictable.
Well, thank you for bringing up the state budget. It is often a topic of conversation just because of the timing of the conference, right? It happens at the end of May. Supposedly, the state budget statutorily is supposed to be done by July 1. We have seen conferences where that has happened, where we've been farther along on the budget. But Dave Eggert, there's a real sense right now that the budget won't be done by July 1, and some conversations even about the constitutional mandate about October 1. How does that play in to this overall sense of unmooring when it comes to Michigan's economy?
I mean, it's a huge issue right now. I was talking to Senate Majority Leader Winnie Brinks earlier. She said that is the number one thing that's being brought up to her right now at this conference. Is the budget going to be done on time? Republican Speaker Matt Hall has pretty strongly signaled it's not going to get done by July 1st. And if it's not going to get done by July 1st, these tend to go into September and maybe late September, and then you are up against an actual deadline of funding the government. So I think there's a lot of concern. Like Rick said, I think this conference will be an interesting lesson in can business leaders and others that maybe aren't directly involved in Lansing all the time kind of impress upon political leaders the importance of getting a budget done early just to send a message, we can do this, divided government can work.
Right, and it's interesting that, Rick, like at the beginning of this session, so much of the focus was on the minimum wage deal, of which, the chamber was sort of a part of. And there was a lot of conversations. It felt like, wow, is bipartisan deal making back, right? Like, can we see divided government work? Those were two bills. We have now only seen two more bills since then. And these were bills that were basically fixing a problem that needed to be fixed about campaign finance. So, is divided government working? Well, is that even a question we should ask at this moment?
After those two bills were done, I want everybody at this table to raise their hand if they really thought that divided government was going to work. I thought it was a
possibility. Maybe I'm Pollyanna-ish about that.
I guess there are a couple of things. That the July 1 budget, statutory budget deadline, not the constitutional one, is something that was kind of a culture change in Lansing because, one, that became respected, and two, that was great news for local governments, for schools, K-12 schools, community colleges and universities, because they have, unlike the state, they have fiscal years that begin July 1st. But the other part of that July 1 deadline is that it was respected, but there is nothing that punishes the state, that punishes the legislature for not meeting that deadline.
Yeah. But this is a little bit where the soft power from business leaders comes in. I mean, what does punishment actually look like? In the final couple of minutes that we have left, we have to talk about the politics. We are in a odd-numbered year, meaning that there are not statewide races. Of course, there is the Detroit mayoral race that is happening. There will be a debate tomorrow night here on Mackinac. But Dave Eggert, I mean, even though we are in an odd year, it does not mean that these campaigns are not underway here at this conference.
No, not at all. I mean, I think I've seen most of the candidates. I think they're all here. I think it just seems like each cycle things are happening earlier and earlier. I was just talking to, the DeVos family, or a couple of the DeVos family, just signaled they're going to put $5 million into Republican John James' campaign. It used to be, even that was kind of, maybe you'd find out about it later. Now people are trying to insert themselves a little more, get it out there, let it be known. I think there's, in the U.S. Senate, I should also mention Mike Duggan polling showing that he can be up to around 25% of the vote right now, which is interesting.
This Richard Chuba polling, chamber polling, check it out on the website because it is fascinating data to dig into. Dave Eggert, Rick Pluta, always appreciate the insights here on the island. And we will be right back.